What if the deepest pattern of your life has been hiding in plain sight? There is an old kind of knowledge that almost always arrives the same way, first as a rumor, then as a warning, and finally as a truth, that people pretend never existed. Quantum entanglement was treated that way in the public imagination for years, because the idea itself feels impossible until you understand the principle behind it. Two things separated by distance, still linked by something deeper than ordinary sight can measure. That single idea has been used badly, romanticized wildly, and reduced to noise by people who wanted mystery without discipline. But beneath the exaggeration, there is a practical lesson that can change the way you think, feel, and act, not because your mind is magic in a childish sense, not because you can wish away reality, but because your subconscious is always broadcasting a pattern, and your life keeps answering that pattern. This is the hidden part humanity often ignores. What you repeat internally becomes the emotional field you inhabit, and that field influences every choice you make. The world does not simply happen to you. You move through it as a signal, and the signal is shaped by attention, belief, memory, and expectation. That is why the phrase quantum entanglement matters here. Even if we are not using it as a laboratory claim about particles, we are using it as a frame for understanding connection. Your conscious mind thinks it is steering the ship, but the subconscious is the deeper current beneath the hull. It stores patterns, protects identity, filters threat, and preserves what it thinks is familiar. If you do not train it, it will entangle itself with fear, old pain, and inherited limits. If you do train it, it begins to coordinate your perception with clarity, resilience, and purpose. And this is the part that changes everything. The energy hidden from humanity is not a secret substance floating somewhere outside you. It is the unused power that emerges when your inner state stops contradicting your intention. They taught people to look outward for proof. They taught them to wait for permission, certainty, and external validation. But the subconscious does not move by permission. It moves by repetition, emotion, and image. This is why two people can enter the same room and leave with completely different experiences. One feels attacked, another feels curious. One contracts, another expands. The room was not the only variable. The internal field was. This is the simplest way to understand the hidden architecture of the self. Thought is the spark, emotion is the charge, and behavior is the waveform that enters the world. When those three align, your life becomes coherent. When they conflict, you leak energy constantly. You overthink, hesitate, self-sabotage, and then call it bad luck. But much of what people call bad luck is actually misalignment repeated long enough to become identity. The subconscious is not your enemy. It is loyal even when it is mistaken. It keeps the patterns that once helped you survive. If fear kept you safe as a child, fear may have become your automatic language. If silence protected you, silence may now be the prison you mistake for personality. This is why transformation is not about forcing positivity. It is about reprogramming the deeper agreement between what you feel, what you expect, and what you allow. If you want a practical change, begin with observation. Notice how your body reacts before your mind explains anything. Notice the tightening in the chest when you anticipate rejection. Notice the warmth that appears when you remember a moment of trust. Those sensations are not random. They are the subconscious speaking in its native language. Once you can read that language, you can begin to influence it. Before any advanced practice, there is one instrument that reveals your current state immediately: breath. When people are calm, their breathing is deep, steady, and unforced. When they are afraid, their breath becomes shallow and fragmented. When they are overwhelmed, they often stop breathing fully altogether, as if the body were trying to disappear from the moment. Children breathe naturally. They do not think about it. The body knows what to do when life feels safe. But stress teaches the system to brace, and bracing changes everything. Shallow breathing tells the nervous system that the world is urgent, dangerous, and incomplete. Intentional breathing tells it the opposite. There is space, there is time, and there is choice. Start there. Inhale slowly through the nose. Let the belly expand first. then the chest. Hold for a moment without strain. Exhale with the intention of releasing more than air. Release tension. Release noise. Release the false demand that you must solve your whole life in one breath. Then repeat, not as a ritual of superstition, but as a method of regulation. When the breath changes, the mind changes. When the mind changes, the subconscious becomes more accessible. This is why even a simple breathing practice can feel like opening a locked room inside yourself. You are not adding something foreign, you are restoring a function that stress interrupted. If you want a useful shortcut for reshaping your inner state, this is where many people begin with affirmations. And if you want a structured way to make them personal instead of generic, you can use the link in the description to create your own. It is designed to help you build statements that fit your goal, not somebody else's. Many actors and legends used affirmations for mental change, and now you can make yours in a way that feels direct and practical. Take a look if you want to start shaping the language your subconscious hears every day. They taught people that change must feel dramatic, but the subconscious is rarely impressed by drama. It is impressed by consistency. It listens to what you repeat when you are tired, what you imagine when you are alone, and what you accept as normal when nobody is watching. That is where entanglement becomes a useful metaphor. Your inner state and your outer life keep exchanging information. Every repeated thought creates expectation. Every expectation influences perception. Every perception shapes action. Then action produces evidence, and evidence reinforces belief. The cycle closes itself. This is why a fear-based identity can last for years even without constant external threat. The system keeps confirming its own signal, but the cycle can also be redirected. A new repetition, carried with emotional sincerity, begins to create a new internal pattern. At first, it feels artificial. That is normal. The old pattern resists replacement because it has history. But history is not destiny. What matters is which signal you feed more often. This is where many people fail. They use the language of change without the rhythm of change. They say they want peace, but they rehearse panic. They say they want confidence, but they revisit humiliation. They say they want clarity, but they feed themselves noise. The subconscious does not care about your declarations if your deeper pattern keeps contradicting them. So the work becomes precise. Choose one thought, one image, one state. Repeat it while breathing calmly. Let the body learn the new pattern before demanding a new life. That is not wishful thinking. That is conditioning, applied inward. There is also a reason many people describe an invisible energy around the body. Whether they explain it spiritually, psychologically, or symbolically, they are pointing to a real experience. Your internal state has a presence. When you enter a room anxious, the room feels different. When you enter it grounded, the same room feels more workable. The environment has not changed much, but your relationship to it has. This is how energy becomes practical, not as fantasy, but as influence. You influence yourself first, then your attention, then your decisions, then the atmosphere around you. And if you understand that sequence, you stop waiting for the world to give you permission to feel powerful. Try this now. Sit still. Place your palms a few inches apart. Do not force anything. Just notice. Many people begin to feel warmth, pressure, tingling, or a subtle magnetic sensation between the hands. Some feel nothing at first, which is also fine. The point is not to prove a theory in 5 seconds. The point is to train attention so finely that the body reveals what ordinary distraction hides. Now slowly bring the hands closer and farther apart. Notice what changes. The sensation may become stronger, softer, or simply clearer. That small experiment matters because it teaches a forgotten skill. Awareness of subtle internal feedback. Once that skill develops, you can use it in daily life. You begin to sense when your system is contracting before your words turn sharp. You begin to notice fatigue before it becomes collapse. You begin to interrupt spirals at the first flicker instead of after they have taken over. If this is resonating, there is another simple resource you can use to support the mental side of the process. The link in the description lets you create affirmations that match the state you are trying to build. It is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is about giving the mind a repeated direction it can learn. If you want a starting point, that link is there for you. Once you can feel your field, you also learn when it is crowded. Old conversations, unfinished anger, absorbed tension from other people, fear you never questioned. These things accumulate like static, not because you are weak, but because the mind is always absorbing and organizing experience. So the next step, your inner energy can be cleansed and transformed, is cleansing. This does not require ceremony unless ceremony helps you focus. What matters is the intention to release what is not yours, what is no longer useful, and what has been lodged in you by repetition rather than truth. Begin with breathing. On each exhale, imagine the body emptying stale pressure. Then imagine a soft current moving through the head, throat, chest, and abdomen, carrying out fatigue. You can visualize water, light, wind, or simply use the sensation of release. The image is secondary. The effect is what matters. Then add protection, not because the world is evil, but because attention is valuable. Imagine a clear boundary around your awareness, not a wall of fear, but a filter of discernment. Let in what nourishes, let out what drains. This boundary helps the subconscious understand that not every impulse, emotion, or opinion deserves access. Then grounding. Feel the feet, feel the weight of the body, feel the support beneath you. Grounding tells the nervous system that you are here, now, and stable enough to handle the moment. A mind that floats too far from the body becomes vulnerable to fantasy and panic alike. Grounding returns intelligence to the present tense. Cleansing and protection are essential, but they are not the highest form of mastery. The deeper work is transmutation. This means you do not merely repel dense energy, you convert it into force, insight, and momentum. This is where many people discover their real strength. The same emotion that once disorganized them can become fuel when consciously directed. Anger can become boundaries. Grief can become compassion. Fear can become precision. Shame can become honesty. Nothing is wasted when it is understood correctly. Here is a simple transmutation method. First, identify the dense feeling without fighting it. Name it clearly. Then locate it in the body. Is it in the throat, stomach, chest, jaw, shoulders? Once you know where it lives, breathe into that area with patience. Imagine a warm, golden flame there, not burning you, but refining the heaviness into light. With each exhale, visualize the density changing color, becoming less opaque, less rigid, more usable. Now add sound. A low hum, spoken softly, can help the body vibrate out of rigidity. The specific tone matters less than the consistency of attention. Keep breathing. Keep focusing. Allow the sensation to change rather than demanding that it vanish instantly. The goal is not suppression. The goal is conversion. This is also where the subconscious begins to trust you. It sees that you can hold discomfort without panic. It sees that you can stay present without collapsing. That trust changes everything, because a trusted inner authority can rewrite what fear once controlled. At the deepest level, quantum entanglement becomes a metaphor for relationship. Every part of your inner life is linked. Body, memory, emotion, belief, and action are not separate kingdoms. They are connected systems. When one changes, the others respond. That is why a small shift can create a large result. One honest breath can interrupt an entire spiral. One clear decision can alter a week. One repeated affirmation can begin to soften years of self-doubt. The change seems tiny because people underestimate how interconnected they are. And this is also why you cannot fake your way through transformation for long. A mouth can say one thing, but the body knows the truth. If your affirmation says, "I am safe," while your nervous system is braced for impact, the system will resist until it feels evidence. So support the statement with breath, posture, and repetition. Make the message believable through lived experience. If you want help building that kind of message, the tool linked in the description can be a useful place to start. Create affirmations that sound like something your own mind can actually accept. Use them as a bridge, not as decoration. That is how language becomes practice instead of noise. In the end, The hidden energy humanity overlooks is not hidden because it is inaccessible. It is hidden because most people are conditioned to look everywhere except inward, and to trust everything except their own trained attention. But once you understand the pattern, you realize something powerful and quiet. You are not merely a receiver of life. You are a transmitter. What you repeat becomes your atmosphere. What you feel becomes your filter. What you believe becomes the shape of what you notice, and what you notice becomes the shape of what you do. That is the practical version of the mystery. Not fantasy, not escape, influence. So start simply. Breathe with intention, observe the body, clean the signal, protect your attention, transmute what is heavy. Repeat the thought you want to inhabit until it no longer feels foreign. And when doubt rises, do not worship it. Notice it, breathe through it, and return to the pattern you choose. The old texts called this awakening. Modern language may call it regulation, self-mastery, or subconscious reprogramming. The name matters less than the result. When your inner field becomes coherent, your life stops feeling like a random collision of forces and starts becoming a directed expression of who you are. If you are ready to give your mind a clearer instruction, check the link in the description and create your own affirmations. Make them precise, make them personal, use them daily. Because the subconscious is always listening, and sooner or later, it organizes your world around the signal you feed it. Once you understand that connection runs deeper than surface appearances, the real question is no longer whether hidden energy exists. The real question is whether you are willing to become disciplined enough to carry it without fear. If your subconscious has been repeating limitation, you can retrain it. If your attention has been fragmented, you can gather it. If your life has felt entangled with old pain, you can begin a new pattern now. And maybe that is the most important secret of all. What was hidden from humanity was never truly absent. It was simply waiting for people to become coherent enough to use it.